Welcome to our today's video. In this particular video I'm going to show you the difference between EM and REM. So some of the people call it M and then RM. So it just depends with who taught you English, but basically when you say REM and the other one talk of EM and the other one say M and the other one say RM, so this means one and the same thing. Now in this particular case I'm just going to illustrate it or describe it first before I write a code to demonstrate how REM and EM is going to be applied in a web page. Now this is an HTML structure. Now in this particular case we have the HTML tag beginning at the top there. We have the head tag. Inside the head tag we have the title tags, then we have the body, we have the heading one element, and then we have the closing body, and then we have the HTML closing tag. Now when you talk about the root element, in this case you mean the element that forms other elements. An element that form another element, we call it a root element. So in this particular case we have only one root element, and in this particular case is HTML. HTML is our root element. Now when you talk about a parent element is the one that carries a child element. Now for this particular case, when you talk about a parent element, you are referring to the body. For example, the parent element for H1 is body element, because this particular element, the child element, is formed inside this particular parent element called the body. Now that is the difference between the root element and then you talk of the parent element, because if you don't understand the difference between these two, it will be difficult for you to understand the EM and the root EM. Now what are these? When you talk about EM and REM, what are these? These are just relative sizes of fonts that are used on a web page. The relative sizes of fonts that are used in a website, in a web page. Now remember, we have got two types of font size. We have what we call static, and when we talk about static we talk about the point and then you talk about the pixels. But when you come to the relative font sizes, you talk about the EM and the root EM. Now in this particular case, let's see on how you can go to apply this. Now we go to our VS Code, and then I'm going to create a new file. So click on file and then go to new file, and then I want you to create a file called index.html. then you click there. So it will ask you, it will prompt you where the file is supposed to be inserted. So already I've created that folder for CSS Essential. I'm going to put it there. So I'll click here, create. So by default you can see the file has been created. I'm going to create the second file for my CSS, so I'll click on file and then new, and then I'm going to write there styles.css. so that is the second file that I want to create in that particular scope. Now I will just want to create a very simple website or a simple HTML document. So we start with the doc type. Already I have seen the doc type is there. I also open that. Then I'm supposed to use the language to be English, and then I close that, and then I go to heading. Inside the heading, I think there is a problem here. One good thing about this is that it will give you an immediate problem if there is any problem in this particular case. So there is a problem there, but I've just corrected it. Inside here you're supposed to have the title tags, and then in the title section you're supposed to write the title. Maybe you can say EM versus REM. Then also you can also have the meta character set at the top here. Meta character set, say meta, supposed to open meta character set. UTF-8. Then also the title, I think it should be well aligned. It is not well aligned, so I'm going to put it to be exactly at that point. So that is now the correct form. Another thing that I need to add in this case, prior to, I can just add the link. I can just add the link for the CSS file that I've just created, so that I don't maybe forget to add it. So I'm going to add that file. So we can have styles.css. Already the file has popped up because it is in the same directory, but in case you want to specify the current directory, you can just use the dot and then the slash, and then you put there the file that you want. So like that. So that is the most appropriate way. Then after doing that, you have already specified the heading. This is the heading tags. Okay, so this is the heading. I can just cut this and then paste it here. So the heading tags are there. Okay, now we move to the next part, which is the body. Now in the body section, I just want to create maybe two elements. So I'm going to create h1 element, and in the h1 element I just want to say hello. And then in the second element, that is h2, the second element, I want to use the footer. And the footer, I want to position inside there the h2, and then the h2 will read hello there. There the h2 will be hello there. And now in this particular case, I'm going now to create my CSS, put there some properties that are related to what we want to create. So in this particular case, I'm going to start with my HTML or the root element. I'm going to put the font size for this particular root element to be 20 pixels. All the fonts that I'm going to use will be 20 pixels for the root element. And then after that, I'm going also to specify the font for the first for the heading one. And the font for the heading one, I want to use let me use 10 pixels. And then though it is very little or very minimal, it's somehow very small, it will not be visible enough, but I just want to demonstrate using that. And then the second one, I'm going to put the footer. Remember, I'm not using any CSS selector, I'm using the element selector in this particular case. I'm not using the class or the ID. That's why you can see I'm just referring to the element itself. Though I'm going to use here font size, and the font size in this case I want to use something like 10. Let me just use 10 again, so that we can be able to see the difference between the two when that value grows. And finally, I just want to create h2. Now h2 is our target in this particular case. So when you're going to apply the EM, there is something that is supposed to be displayed. So when I position, maybe I say the font size for the h2 is 2 EM. Basically what I mean is twice the parent element. Now the parent element in this case is the footer. The footer in this particular case is the parent element, because h2 has been formed inside this particular element, so we call it a parent element. So if the font for the footer was 10, so it means that the font for h2 is going to be 20. So we can just see that right here. So I'm going to save this and also save that, and then when I run this particular program, you realize the difference. So I've just run that program. Remember, we had already set the styles to be 10 pixels and 10 pixels for the h1, and also 10 pixels for the other one. So when you talk about 10 pixels, you can see the 10 pixels is here now. But since this h2 is twice the parent element, that's why you can see it is 10 times 2, and therefore you can see how it has grown to this particular value. Now if you want to check exactly what is happening, maybe I can decide to change here to be 4. The moment I write there 4, you realize that it is going to grow times 4. So what it is going to be 4 times 10. So 4 times 10 is going to give you 40 pixels. Now what if I decide to use RM or REM? So in this particular case, when you say 2REM, you realize that it is going to reference this particular root element. The root element in this case is using 20, so it is going to be 2 times 20, and therefore it is going to give you a 40. So for example, I increase it to 4. You can see how it grows. So it is going to 4 times 20, so it is going to give you 80. That's why you can see it has grown very well. Now as a programmer or as a web developer, which between the two relative sizes, you have talked about the EM and then you have talked about the REM, which one is the most appropriate when you are designing a website? So I recommend that you use root EM, because with root EM it is going to ensure that there is some consistency in the fonts that you are using, and also is going to enhance the appearance of your website or your web page. So if you use the root the parent EM, the parent element, sometimes you can have some kind of inconsistency in the way the text or the font is going to appear to the end users. But if you use the root EM, you realize that there is some kind of consistency in the way the text are going to appear. So I hope you have understood the two terminologies. You can also support me by clicking on the subscribe button, and also you can be able to click on the notification button so that when I create the next video, you'll be informed. Thank you so much. Bye bye for now.